And we are back. The last 24 hours for Bitcoin has been nothing but top tier entertainment. And if there's one thing that we can guarantee, there is definitely more to come. So let's do it. Let's start off looking at a couple of guys from CNBC and what they had to say about Bitcoin.
There it is, over 67,000. We're approaching all-time highs, Mr. Weiss. Yep. It's another 7% today.
That is true. Yesterday, Bitcoin did top all-time highs, getting to around that 69,200 mark. And that's exactly what I told you guys. I told you we are going to be hitting an all-time high in no time. Actually came a little bit sooner than what I expected. I expected the end of the week. Nevertheless, we did hit that $69 threshold.
What's behind this other than momentums?
There's still no use case. Well,
Did you guys hear that? Let's rewind that. Rehash. See what he said.
there's still no use case. Well, there are a few things.
He's saying there's no use case for Bitcoin. And that's something that you might hear from a lot of people who just don't understand Bitcoin and what it's about and the benefits it provides. There are tons of use cases, right? You can reel them off. One being, it is a fantastic store of value. What is the greatest store of value? The largest asset in the world? That's gold. But now we've got a new iteration of that. We got Bitcoin is essentially the digital gold. The benefits of Bitcoin over gold is that gold, you can mine more gold. You can create more gold. Bitcoin, you can't create more than the 21 million units of Bitcoin. That's it. That's it, the limited supply. It is a fantastic hedge against inflation, and it's becoming more and more valuable as a store of value, competing against gold, taking gold's market share, right? Another one is international transfers. We haven't fully mastered international transfers in this world. There are people who cannot receive international transfers. People have to pay higher fees. Bitcoin is more and more becoming a way to transfer money internationally, and that will only grow over time. Another is investment purposes, right? Bitcoin is the best performing asset class. That in itself is a use case. Bitcoin is also a method of payment, which a lot of people completely ignore or disregard. Ferrari, you could buy Ferraris using Bitcoin, right? You can go on Shopify and buy from certain retailers using Bitcoin. But we're only in the early innings. That's the thing. If you look ahead, if you want to look a few years, 5 years down the line, you're going to have more and more companies onboarding Bitcoin and allowing it as a payment source. That is huge. You don't want to wait till 50% of global retailers have adopted Bitcoin. You want to get in before that happens, because when that does happen, obviously the value of Bitcoin will be much, much higher. There are a small amount of retailers compared to the global universe that accept Bitcoin, but that number is growing, okay? And as the perception of Bitcoin continues to grow and its utility continues to grow, that number in itself will continue to grow. So that is another massive use case. And then of course you have decentralized finance. That is another massive use case, which again is in the early innings. People want to disregard it because it's not built out, it's not fully structured, there's not tons of applications there. But again, early stages, foresight. In a few years' time, you have much more applications. You'll be able to use decentralized finance for a lot more different investment purposes, for a lot of different lending purposes, but it's just the early innings right now. So the fact that he's saying Bitcoin has no use cases, that's just not true, right?
crazy.
Let's see if there's anything else he has to say.
I don't really think that's the case. I just don't think the economy's all on it. It's purely the marketing power right now, BlackRock or Fidelity, and more to come. But to show you how ridiculous it is, Bitcoin isn't even the top foreign currency. I think Bite the Dog, or whatever the hell that currency's name, is up 400%.
I don't know. I've never heard of this by the dog. Is he talking about Dogecoin or I don't know? But look, comparing Bitcoin to a meme coin, yeah, I think we should just move on from that guy, to be honest. Right, so big news in Bitcoin is that we saw massive liquidations yesterday, okay? If you guys remember, I've been telling you in the last few days, I am expecting Bitcoin to create a liquidation event. And I told you the exact price level, $60,000. We'd see Bitcoin come there and liquidate those positions. But more on that in a bit. We got Bitcoin tumbling 10% after hitting record highs, triggering 1 billion crypto liquidations. It sounds doom and gloom. It sounds like something that is serious. It sounds like something that you want to be scared of, or you want to be selling your positions looking at this title, right? Look at the language here. 1 billion liquidations turns into a bloodbath, overzealous leverage traders. But let's break down exactly what happened. Bitcoin moved to that all-time high level, or just over 69,200. At 69,000, you would have many traders who would have had sell limit orders at 69,000 or just above. So if it moved above that level, it would take them out of their position. Well, you also had trailing stop losses as well. So people would have had a 2% trailing stop or a 3% trailing stop. Bear in mind, we've seen strong strength over the last couple of days. You would have had stop loss positions at that $65,000 level. You would have had stop losses at that $60,000 level. Because you have stop losses at these key levels, what you're doing is you're triggering a cascade in price. That's why, one of the reasons why you saw Bitcoin move to all-time highs and then very quickly reverse course and drop below that 60,000. Liquidation events in Bitcoin, they are very much needed and they're very much natural movements. Liquidation events happen because when we get these bull momentum moves where more and more people are buying Bitcoin, bidding the price higher, what happens is you're getting more and more people entering in with leverage positions. So you have leverage traders adding to their positions, stacking on top of each other. And what that's doing is increasing their risk to the point where it becomes excessive. So these are liquidation events that you see when price seemingly is moving, higher, nothing can stop it. Then you see a flash crash, 10%, 1 billion of liquidation event. What that is a natural movement. It's a natural, it is a natural way for the market to decrease excessive risk, okay, to recalibrate these leverage traders and basically make the market more efficient, because otherwise risk would just go through the roof. So that's why these liquidation events happen, and they happen all the time, but they're very much needed. They're very natural parts of bull markets, and we're going to continue to see these types of situations. But the last few days, I did say we are going to get that liquidation event. I told you the exact price that we're going to see Bitcoin move towards, and I told you exactly what's going to happen after that. But when you hear the headlines, it looks like it's a crazy event, or event that is you should be scared about, where it's just natural. As a matter of fact, it's actually a positive. It's actually a very good move. It's a very good event for continued upside momentum in Bitcoin. Now, what you need to know is that this liquidation event happened at the exchange level. Okay, what do I mean by that? I mean it happened at companies like Binance, these exchanges, Coinbase, Gemini. We have short-term traders doing their thing. It happened at that level. It didn't happen at the level, like the institutional level. Okay, remember, they're different participants in Bitcoin, and you want to have a gauge of what these participants are doing on each side of the fence. Okay, so on the exchange level, yes, you had a lot of people who were liquidated out of your positions. These are short-term traders. They only want to be in for a certain amount of time. But because that level, at the exchange level, is much less significant than the institutional level, it is not significant, and it doesn't deter price from going to where it really wants to go, and that is new all-time highs above 70,000, above 80,000 to the $100,000 mark. Now check this out. So this is ETF inflows. Okay, remember, the spot ETF basically just allows institutional investors and individuals to buy Bitcoin on the stock market. That's basically it in simplistic forms. You can now buy Bitcoin on the stock market if you live in certain places like the US. But take a look at this. So this left column is BlackRock. Okay, that's IBIT, that's BlackRock's ETF. And these are just your daily inflows. Look at the daily inflow yesterday when we had that sell-off situation, okay, the liquidation event. This was record inflows. So backtrack, what are inflows? Inflows is just basically the total amount that has been funneled into the ETF. So the amount that the institutions have bought in, the amount that the individuals have bought in, that amount came to 788 million yesterday. Now, as a standalone number, it means nothing. But when you compare it to, let's say, the average, which is 240 million, you can see the difference, right? Inflows yesterday, 788 million. Average inflows way down here at 240. But we just had that massive liquidation event. So it shows you that the institutions are still buying in heavily, right? The institutions are funneling money into Bitcoin, and they're going to continue to do so through this spot ETF because it's a way that they can do so in a familiar setting with regulation, which their clients all like, etc. They continue to funnel money in. 788 million. That was a record inflow into this BlackRock spot ETF. And remember, these inflows, they are way more sticky than any other type of money that we've seen come into Bitcoin historically. Meaning that the institutions aren't just going to buy and sell. They're going to buy for holding purposes. That is a massive plus for this bull market move. And when these inflows come in, BlackRock will go and buy millions of Bitcoin. As a matter of fact, all these ETFs in aggregate now hold over 1 million in Bitcoin. Last time we spoke 2 days ago, it was 700,000. Now they hold 1 million in Bitcoin. So that's 5%, over 5% of the total supply of Bitcoin. And that number is only going to grow towards a 6%, towards a 7%. So these ETFs, they're just stockpiling Bitcoin right now. And they don't have plans to shift that Bitcoin. It's going to be very sticky. They're going to continue to hold that Bitcoin. So we've got a whole new dynamic going on with Bitcoin that didn't exist before this year. Massive institutions holding chunks and chunks of Bitcoin. So when you look at what's happening on the exchange level, and then when you look at what's happening on the institutional level, it's night and day. yes, you had the liquidity event at the exchange level, which caused a little bit of sell-off action, turbulence, but the real picture is what's happening on the institutional level, where they're stockpiling hundreds of thousands of new Bitcoin and they're not selling it. That's the real indication of what's to come, not the short-term fluctuation that happened at the exchange level with the liquidation event, which is just a recalibration, just a rebalancing of the market before it continues to go on its way. Now, these liquidation events, they happen all the time. As a matter of fact, there's like a mirror event that happened last year, August. Crypto traders suffer 1 billion in liquidations in sharp sell-off. This was August 2023. Same 1 billion number, liquidations. Price dropped to 25,000. Since that level, it's tripled. Okay, why did that happen? Well, this was the rebalance, that recalibration before price moves on its way. These liquidation events, they are very powerful, and this is the type of market where it's the buy the dip situation. Okay, it's the buy the dip situation in this type of market, and the buy the dip situations happen when these liquidity situations present themselves. Haven't changed the charts. They're exactly as they've been over the last couple of days. And if you look at price, you can see this is our $60,000 line. This is our $57 line. I was saying to you, I'm expecting price to hit that $60,000 mark and take out these positions, right? Creating that liquidity event. These guys here, they would have had stop losses below that level on that 60,000. They have been taken out of their positions when we had that sell-off yesterday. These liquidity events, they're almost like gather energy, right? Price drops, you get that gather of energy, and then you get that rebound in price. And that's exactly what's happened. What would have happened is, you now in a short squeeze situation, okay? As the market dropped under 60, you would have had a load of short positions come on, because it would have been much cheaper for them now to short the market when it dropped. Now they have flipped their tone. They are now in long positions based on that rebound and not a continual drop below 60,000, and now they're on the other side of the trade. So now we have even more energy going into the $69,000 mark than we did previously, because we now have the short sellers on the other side. So this is a very big move for Bitcoin, all right? Bitcoin is in a very strong position to move above that $69,000 mark with even more strength than it did the last time. So this is what's on the cards in the short term, and this is what I expect to happen. Now, looking ahead, once it does break through that 69,000, gets into the 70,000, 80,000 shouldn't be too hard, really. It's only, 10%, just over 10%. That's sometimes a daily move for Bitcoin. So wouldn't be surprised to see it go from 70 to 80, no problem. But the halving event is coming up. It's still a month away. So that does mean we are going to get some days of chop, some days of moving sideways as the market kind of just fluctuates, bounces around a little bit before we do get that massive halving event taking place next month. Okay, that is a huge month for Bitcoin. Based on the structure that we're at right now, I'd expect we move into that $70,000 level as we get closer and move above 70,000 as we get closer and closer to that halving event taking place next month. But we should expect another liquidity event around the halving situation. And given the move that we've seen into the halving situation, it wouldn't surprise me to see that liquidation event happen just before the halving event. So early April. We might get a liquidation event. Again, on the exchange level, leverage traders get taken out of their position. They get wiped. Price drops. You know, you print a death candle on the charts. That'd be a buying opportunity. We always get some form of selling pressure just before or just after the halving event, before the real move takes place over the next couple of months. All right. On average, we've seen Bitcoin double in the next 12 months after a halving event. Even more, 200% after a halving event. Doesn't even need to do that. 100% would be enough. So expectation is to get some volatility, some selling pressure just before the halving event. That's still a couple of days away. So we might get a couple of days like today where Bitcoin doesn't do too much. I think it's up 4% today. Might chop around a little bit. But that liquidity event just before the halving event, that would be another great time to take a look at Bitcoin. Depending on what your strategy is. Obviously, if you're dollar cost averaging, doesn't matter. Continue to do that. But if you're looking for another optimal entry point, that is the time frame. That is the time. And then after about a month, Bitcoin continues on its bull run and completes the bull cycle over the next 12 to 18 months, where Bitcoin then surpasses that $100,000 mark and leaves all of the spectators, all of the doubters just confused. Okay, that is the expectation. So plenty of big things to come for Bitcoin, and you heard it here first. Why is this time different to last time? That is a question you might have, and that's something you might hear, because in 2021 Bitcoin was hovering around the same price it's hovering at right now at high 60s. Okay, 2021 at the tail end of the last bull run, Bitcoin was the same price it is now. So why is this time different to last time? There's a couple of reasons. One of the main being this move we're seeing is institutional led. That is extremely different to last time. Last time round, it was driven by retail, it was driven by FOMO, it was driven by unstable factors. This time it's institutional led, helped by the spot ETFs. The spot ETFs have allowed a whole different class of investor to come into Bitcoin and to buy Bitcoin in volumes that we hadn't seen. Okay, volumes that we haven't seen, with a investor type that has a different goal and agenda to the ones that were in last time at the tail end of the bull run, 2021, 2022. These guys, they have a different reason for being in Bitcoin. They are taking a long-term perspective. Bitcoin is being added to pension portfolios. Bitcoin is being added to long investment strategies in volume. That's very, very different. It's different to last time because the supply constraints have increased. The supply constraints are greater than they were last time. The new supply of Bitcoin will be lower than it was back in 2021. Okay, that volume is being cut in half next month. That is one of the supply constraints. The fact that institutional investors are buying in quantity with a buy and hold mentality for the majority, that in itself is a supply constraint. And not only that, 80% of Bitcoin hasn't moved in the last 6 months. That's huge. We couldn't say that last time round in the last bull market. We couldn't say that 80% of the Bitcoin hadn't moved. there was a lot more fluidity in the movement of Bitcoin 2021 than there is now. There's much more sticky elements of Bitcoin than there was in 2021. Now, because of that, it means that there is an element of constrained supply. And when there is constrained supply, that increases price. So that is a very different dynamic than what we saw last year. And also, we are going into a lower interest rate environment. We know the Fed has to reduce these interest rates. And yes, they'll do it at a slow pace. And yes, it might take, longer than what people expected for them to actually start reducing the interest rates. But the bull market lasts 18